same reflection on the cost of living, which is a reality right now. But do the manifestos that we've seen so far, the latest also from Magano Party that was launched yesterday by presidential candidate, that is David Wahiga Maure, also reflecting the reality on the ground. He wants to really tackle corruption. But this is what Gado has done for us today. If you missed it, my government will give funding to single mothers, the same of course sentiment that we've had. Funding to single mothers, widows, young people, Jokali artisans. My administration will provide funding for young hustlers, mama mboga, needy men, women, struggling businesses. That is from Ruto. And what Wanjiko is asking, right, he's saying, or she's saying, we don't want freebies and favors. All we want is affordable loans, quality healthcare, lower taxes, a working judiciary, good security and accountable state officer with integrity. I want us just to begin from there so far, looking at this particular manifestos we've had from Kenya Kwanza and the reality on the ground, which is the cost of living. Do they really reflect the reality on the ground?
Which one?
Our manifestos, all of them, or it is just a cookie cutting sort of a strategy that is picked from Azimio?
No,
there's no discernible difference at all.
I can tell you for a fact that Kenya Kwanza's manifesto reflects the reality of the ground. It resonates with the people. It's a culmination of our people's driven exercise. Remember, we had a validation forum for our manifesto across all the 47 counties in the Republic of Kenya. There is no county that we didn't visit, explain to them what a Kenya Kwanza administration portends for every county. And in the next coming few days, we shall go back to the people to sign a county charter, such that when we come to Makueni, and I invite Dan Manzo to come and witness the same, despite the fact that he belongs to the other side, is that we will enter into a county charter agreement with the people of Makueni, signed and witnessed by them, that this is what a Kenya Kwanza administration will do specifically for this county, on top of the other things that we'll do nationally that are spread across all the 47 counties. So I guess the answer is yes. For example, on this issue of the cost of living, you remember our first pillar is actually agriculture. And one of the things that we have said about it is that we need to capitalize our farmers in ensuring that their capacity to produce and produce cheaply is something that we intend to push hard about, ensuring that they get fertilizer at an affordable price, any other farm inputs at a subsidized fee, and ensuring that for those that are not able to, say dairy farmers for example, get animal feeds, and they resort to maybe a lower grade feeding capacity because they may not afford what is being sold in the agrovet, that we will supply them with a package, and the package has been worked complete to the figure of what it takes to run, say, a single dairy cow, and double whatever amount of milk that it produces at a certain amount, and provide that package. You know, so if Dan Manzo has 10 cows which are giving him 40 or 50 liters a day, that it's possible to work out the package for him that will allow him to double actually his output to 100 liters at a certain price, and enable him to pay back. And then of course we spoke largely about agricultural aggregators, you know, organizing them into either farmer organization groups or cooperatives to ensure that they have an assured market. You know, the problem, one of the biggest problems with our agricultural sector is lack of aggregation of the produce, so that I just farm in my land and it's my business to look for markets, so that we can all be in Kitale with Kipruto, and he farms his potatoes. He's lucky because he has the connections to sell a sack of his potatoes at 2,000 Kenya shillings, and because maybe I don't have the connections that he has, I sell mine at 1,500. Yet it costed us the same amount to produce the same. If you have proper organized farm organization groups that purchase in bulk and sell in bulk to the would-be producers, and even do a value add, say if it's something like potatoes, you ensure that they are actually peeled and packaged in a way that all these chips selling outlets can buy it, instead of coming and having to come and peel them off once again. And for that job, ensure that a farmer earns something slightly better than what they were earning. It will ensure that these farmers earn better. So the answer I can give you confidently, Dibal, is that in our manifesto we have the answer to bringing down this cost of living by ensuring that we produce cheaply, and we are organized enough to ensure that it gets to the rest of the country at an affordable price, and that we don't have to import the amount of food that we have to import, because it costs slightly more as opposed to if we are producing it locally. We produce many of these food locally, then you don't have to meet the cost of transportation, you don't have to meet certain levies that come with importing part of this food, which is what is making our lives expensive.
All right, indeed. Kirwa, looking at that editorial cartoon that we have, if my director will just put it up there. Yeah. We can see, a gentleman there, just put it fully, with a pail in hand, and the manifestos there. Yesterday we had also Waige, Wahiga actually, Maure launching he's on the podium. And is it a true reflection of where we are at?
Well, there are a number of challenges. You remember all these manifestos. I'm sure if Senator Jeriot has gone through a Simio manifesto, he would have realized there are a number of similarities. Why are there similarities? Most of these statements are crafted out of the Vision 2030, a vision that President Kibaki and the rest of us was able to funnel out for the people of Kenya between that time and 2030. Now, but the fundamental challenge that we seem not to be addressing is where shall we mobilize these resources from, given the fact that the debt is gone through the ceiling, and almost more than half of the revenue that we are collecting is going towards retiring the debt. Number two, how are we going to mitigate some of the measures if we are not going to fight corruption? Because as you know, 1/3 of the revenue of the money that is budgeted for disappears through pilferage, wastage, and also misallocation. So those are the two fundamental issues. Now back to what Senator Jeriot said. When it comes to animal feeding, it is not just simplistic that you give 4,000 per cow and therefore you double your production. The main challenge with livestock subsector, even when we have some good rains and there is a bit of increased yields from livestock, that a lot of milk goes to waste. Why? It is because we've not taken care of the entire system, from production, processing, up to marketing, up to the table. I would have expected Kenya Kwanza to tell us, yes, they will spend 8 billion in terms of subsidizing farmers for livestock feed, but they will also spend another component in expanding the capacity of processors. Today, it's only KCC and Brookside that have the capacity of converting milk from raw milk to milk that can stay on the shelves much longer. And therefore, if you are doubling production, you'll actually be doubling trouble in Kenya. There are some places in this country, when there is a lot of milk, even dogs run away from looking at milk. So it's not entirely true that it's just simplistic, you just double it, but it was good politics for the deputy president. But when you look at it realistically, he should have said slightly more than that for that particular time. Now, when you go also to farm inputs, it's not just a fertilizer and seed. There must be a component of research, and research institutions in Kenya today are dead. I would have wanted him to tell us what is it going to do about research. Starting with the sugarcane industry, all the research institutions, the funding on research, increasingly from the government for the last 10 years, has been diminishing instead of increasing, which is supposed to be a component of the GDP of this country, should go to research and development for purposes of improving agriculture subsector sector. Now, the other issue is soil. Today, our yields, whether it is Trans Nzoia, whether it is Kericho, whether it is Narok, or whether it is Meru, the yields have gone down for the last couple of decades. Why? It is because we are putting the same fertilizer in the soil without doing what we call soil testing to see which appropriate fertilizer, when used, will assist in terms of spurring growth. Why? The fertilizer that is already in the soil has looked at the soil and cannot release the nutrients for crops to use. So this is a more interesting way. What I would want to hear as they go towards their tail end of their campaigns is that where are they going to get the new money? How are they going to retire debt? And how committed are they in fighting corruption?
Thank you.
Because I strongly believe if you are fighting corruption, it is to do with you, the person, your family, and the third is the layer of friends around you who must be able to say corruption is not part of our deal.
Thank you. Allow me just to give Wamatangi and Aaron Chirot, because they'll be leaving in a moment as well. And I hope also... No, you'll hang on with me. You can't just...
should wait for a few minutes.
It's actually 8:15.
Wamatangi, those questions that are being raised by Kiro, it's good that also you tackle them with alongside also Aaron Chirot. The issue of corruption substantially, it's been said, was missing from that particular manifesto. And how you're going to curb corruption.
First, probably is to look at where you started, on the cost of living,
yes.
for Kenyans. And I think this is a major issue. I mean, for the first time in the history of our country, you look at what happened, and you realize that now the cost of one packet of a 2-kilogram maize flour is more expensive than the daily wage of most Kenyans. One packet. It's more expensive than the daily wage entirely for a whole day, what a man works for. Because if you look at the cost now at about 230, I went to a supermarket the other day in Kiambu, and I was shocked, so shocked, that you find that in that particular supermarket they were selling at 245, one packet of 2 kilograms. And I looked at the people around that market, and I just couldn't help but feel sorry. It's a rural market, not urban, rural. And you look at the guys there, the people, the women, the men, and you ask yourself, I just took a random check of some of the people around there. So I asked somebody, where do you work? She works in a certain a hotel next there, and is a waiter there. So how much do you get paid at the end of the month? 9,000. 9,000 for a waiter. How much is that a day? And that lady has a child at home, and they buy cooking oil, and they buy kerosene, and they pay rent in like a small center where they are. It is unbelievable. And I was just telling myself at the end of my campaign that day when I talked to those people, that we must be lucky to have such patient people in this country, because Kenyans are just resilient. They're just patient. If it was in any other place, people would be out on the streets and causing true and serious mayhem. Because I mean, when you can't literally feed a family, then what on earth are you here for? And so I just want to say that because I'm one of those who have come up with a manifesto, I have a good, clear manifesto for the people of Kiambu, and how I intend to run the county government when I get elected. I believe those manifestos must be not only lived up to for real by all of us who have come up with those manifestos, but they must reflect, and that's on what the true state is, and that's why I would want to vouch for the manifesto that was launched by UDA. I've mirrored mine and come up with mine very closely alongside what the values in the plan for the UDA manifesto is like, and so I believe that we have a good plan. I verily believe also as a leader, as somebody who's got good insight into how the economy of a country runs, because that's one of the areas where I've professionalized. I think the shift, and Dibal, these are things that we must say, the shift now to beam the limelight downwards to the base, to the people, is going to be a major shift into how we are going to change the story of today. Because it is not a secret, Dibal, that yes, things were done by the Jubilee government, the first term, the second term, that are good. But does that good planning to build too many roads, too many major mega projects, and borrow and mass have black tarmac from south to the tip of the north, has that amounted to good economic sense?
Thank you.
In as far as our people are concerned?
Right, leave it at that. Corruption. I want to hear from you. Corruption. Corruption.
I can mention. You know, I hear this tale being spun by Azimio about corruption, that it never featured prominently. I guess either they didn't listen or they don't understand. But I suspect the latter more than the former. That they don't understand our approach to corruption, because Azimio's approach to corruption is parroting on a campaign platform that, oh, I will fight corruption. Where will you fight corruption as an elected leader? It's not your duty. My duty is to provide, as a legislator, for example, ensure that the institutions that are charged with the mandate to fight corruption are properly capacitated in terms of budgetary support and all the allocation that they look up to us. Our manifesto speaks prominently about how we will ensure that all institutions of accountability, one, are not interfered with, and two, are supplied with all the necessary tools that they need to do their job without political interference. In fact, I dare say this, Dibal. Do you know why, for example, KEMSA, the so-called COVID billionaires, and all these stories that you hear about, Kimorer and Aror and the rest, why they have never been successfully probed? Is because of political interference. It is the single largest threat to the fight against corruption. These things that you hear Martha Karua and Raila Odinga sing about in campaign platforms, that, oh, I will lead from the front in the fight against corruption. They say that because they know that on many occasions what they mean when they say I will lead from the front is that if Kimani Wamatangi is governor for Kiambu and he disagrees with them and they don't like him, they'll be able to send ESCC officers to his office and tell them, you either comply or we open an inquiry against you. That is Azimio's call to the fight against corruption. Yet it has been proven for the last 10 years that is, if there is a case study, that is how not to fight corruption. How to fight corruption, Dibal, and which is prominently featuring in Kenya Kwanza's manifesto document, is that we as a political class must completely be divorced of the institutions that are charged with the mandate. We have said, for example, we will ensure that the police, National Police Service, have got an accounting officer of their own. We will ensure that the judiciary fund is activated or put into place, so that none of these institutions that are charged with ensuring that those who are found guilty of graft see as if they are doing any of the political class, either those in opposition or in government, a favor by making rulings in a particular way. But so long as I am the one who pays you, do you expect, for example, today, that if there was to be a case that is linked to any of the members of parliament or the big guns in Azimio, as was the case with KEMSA, that the police will prominently investigate it, yet they see Matiang'i, who's their boss, in rallies with Raila Odinga? It's so basic and common sense that I wonder that even people like you can dare ask and say, what is your stand on it? Why you are not able to call out the hypocrisy that is in Azimio by insisting and parroting about, oh, we are going to do something about it. Let us leave the institutions, ESCC, DCI, judiciary. Let us provide the necessary budget support to them and ensure that institutions work. That is a plain, simple language that we have said, so that it will not matter. Even if I'm president and my friend has been found in the situation, the institutions are so strong enough to ensure that they can withstand even those that are in power. If you look at mature democracies in the UK and the US, the reason why they are able to probe even the Prime Minister, as is the case is going on about his breach, for example, in the UK, about his breach of COVID protocols, is because he has no direct link with any of those offices or institutions that are probing him. They go about and do their work. They don't see ruling this way or the other as having a threat to their own existence. But today, EACC cannot dare open a file of inquest against many of these Azimio leaders, including those that put their hand in the Kemsa till, because there's a threat to their existence. They don't know what is going to happen the following day. They'll receive a phone call and be told, oh, look the other way for this case, but write to this particular one. Haven't you seen, and I've given you an example on many occasions, Raila Odinga, the captain of Azimio, went to Kilifi the day Amason Kingi ditched him. And he said, you know, on many occasions, when Kingi had problems with the EACC, I'm the one who used to help him. That's a public admission of interference with the judicial process. And that is the biggest threat to the fight against corruption, Dibal. And that is what we need to campaign against and say, let us strengthen our institutions of oversight and give them the necessary budgetary and institutional support so that they no longer have to rely on us politicians. That is what features in our manifesto.
All right. Okay.
I didn't make a comment.
Make a comment, then we just give our winding parting shots as well. To be fair to all of us.
I don't think it will make so much difference even if they stayed, because I'm about to attack their party very seriously. You know,
in what way?
You know, it is true. One, there is a problem in the whole world, and there is famine in the whole world. There is the war of Ukraine has affected the whole world, and the fuel prices, because a lot of fuel comes from Russia, gas and the wheat. There is really a problem in the world, and now no country is willing to release their food to another country. Tanzania may not give us maize. Uganda may not give us maize. So why don't we have food? There was Chimarel and Aral Dam. They are not done. This is what will provide irrigation in this country. If people are to see what happens in Israel with their little water. We have two rivers, Other River and the Tana River. We are now doing the Foke Dam in Makueni constituency. It's about to be completed so that we can have irrigation and we can make Kenyans have food. You know, there is the Grand High Force. It has failed completely because the Deputy President has interfered with the tendering. We need to have enough water for northeastern and for northern Ukambani and contain the floods, and so that Bura and other places can irrigate properly. The solution to this country is irrigation, so that we as locals have food before we export. But we have not, you know, those two dams did not take over because the Deputy President and these people, they know what they did. The investigation is at the DCI. What happened to the monies to resettle the people? And already we have now been sued for billions of shillings for the people who had been given contracts, and the country continues to lose more. What do we do with the Wajakoya proposal? Parts of other parts of the world are strictly growing marijuana for sale because the cure and the medication used to treat cancer comes from marijuana. So there was a member of parliament, unfortunately he died, a member for Kibra, Ken Okoth, had brought a bill in parliament to have controlled growth of marijuana for medicinal purposes, not legalizing marijuana in the country, so that also many people can stop dying in the world when the cure is with us here and we could make sizable amount of money. So my proposal will be Wajakoya, since he's beginning to hit 1 million plus following voters. He should come to Azimio and we renew this law of, he becomes the champion of this law of the late Ken Okoth. And probably we have a controlled way, you know, of making sure we earn out of this part of agriculture. So I really think well, we need to think as leadership, and whoever wants to form government, this is a very serious matter.
Thank you.
We want these dams working. We want to irrigate this country. We want to have food for ourselves. That is what will help Kenyans, but not borrowing and the many other things we intend to do.
Kiro,
Yes.
yeah, you're winding up.
Well, I just want to appreciate Senator Jerio's statement on fighting corruption, because he's given half of the story. You know, the definition of corruption and how it's pervasive in society is, one, society does accept that corruption is a normal dealing. Two, the leadership of that country does not commit itself fully by saying, I, so and so, shall not partake in anything appertaining to corruption, neither will my family member or the cronies around me, like Aaron Cheruyot, get involved in corruption. And the final stage is to set up institutions for purposes of fighting corruption. This is like in medicine, there is the preventive side and the curative side. So it's talking about curing corruption when it has taken place, and it's not talking about preventing corruption from taking place in the first place. So this is something I wanted to assist him, so that in future, when they have a chance again to run for an election, because this one we are winning, they should also be able to say we are committed to fighting corruption as individuals. And that, to me, is a better way of fighting corruption.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. They are winning. So in your future manifesto, in your future manifesto, there is no way as your parting shots. Your parting shots.
I can tell you that for a fact. How can, by the way, yesterday I asked something which I continue to ask. How can Azimio, who want to plug their
parting shots,
their platform on an anti-graft, campaign platform, be so wishy-washy and non-committal on something as beautiful as a state capture commission? When UDA proposed something as radical as we want actually to go deep down into the detail about all these fake narratives you hear from Manzo and the Times about what happened to the dams and the like. Can we have a state capture commission so that we know the truth? Who took money from public kit in the last whatever number of years? Azimio have interpreted and said, that is akin to going after the president. Of course, they can't admit to it because the president happens to be their chair.
Thank you. So state capture commission.
Yes,
something is
but
in the
ones who capture the state.
Why do you fear having
No.
Kimani Wamatangi, your parting shots.
Yes, I would close it by telling Kenyans, not Azimio, that corruption in this country can never be fought, eliminated, or removed from our fabric the Azimio way. And neither not by Azimio either, because one of the games that they have managed to perfect is that game of placating others while they're the actual players and inventors. Because if you look at the people in Azimio, and this is for real.
I'm in Azimio, so look at me. And tell me the story.
No, let me tell you, my brother Kiro. Well, you are a Johnny come lately in Azimio. So
you also
Listen to me, my brother.
Unlike him, he has never been in Azimio. Him, he was in Kenya Kwanza.
That's the wrong narrative. Let me explain to you.
Let me explain to you how you are saying this break cannot alone.
Let me explain to you
we need to wind up.
The difference between me and them, and why I have never been Azimio, is because Jubilee has never been Azimio. We were with William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta in Jubilee all the time. And the only thing that has happened is towards the end, Uhuru Kenyatta has moved to join Raila Odinga on his side. But on our side, we have remained.
Thank you.
The way it was. But and that is why, I want to say categorically to you gentlemen. And I remember when we had these many arguments about the laundry in Upper Hill. Remember when we were talking about corruption, and we had that discussion with you, Dibal, several. Everybody who was suspected to have been anywhere, having done anything,
we need to wind
they
up.
wanted to look clean.
It is a parting
They
shot.
were heading towards an office in Upper Hill. and so let us agree.
Thank you.
That the way to fight corruption in this country is not what you are proposing. It's not even what you stand for.
No.
And to fight corruption.
Wamatangi, where's my bell? I need to come back with my bell as well. Next week we'll come back with a bell. Wamatangi, we'll leave it at that.
This country, remove the Azimio version of fighting corruption. I'm telling you.
Thank you.
And have new blood. Like the UDA team.
Thank you, Wamatangi.
We are going to have
Wamatangi, thank you. Wamatangi, thank you. Wamatangi, thank you. Right. We need to wind up. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be remiss if I just don't read with promised you, but as I'm winding up, we have CS Opondo saying, Dibal, Jabura is a synonym for a great debater, arbitrator. If you may just pick it, my director, someone who dialogue skills are unmatched. Remember, we were showing you Jabura. Yeah, he's a great debater, arbitrator, someone who dialogue skills and marched. That is the CS Opono saying there. We have Peter Theory saying, the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. This is what Nicola Machiavelli said. This is what politicians do. Also, we have Ron saying, you make me contemplate who's this Manzo? The country has been running. We had COVID-19. Did the country stop moving because we didn't shake? With or without handshake, come 9th August, the country must continue. If you don't know, the genesis of a state capture is the so-called handshake. This is what Ron is saying. We'll leave it at that. Next week, we'll capture more. Thank you for your valued company. Let's just go and take a short break with some good, refreshing breakfast. Thank you for your valued company.